Hey, it's great to see you. Pull up a chair, grab something to drink, and let's talk for a few minutes about waiting. This is a theme that I have continually come back to in my life, just thinking about it, trying to understand it, trying to maybe understand better what is God doing? What is his purpose in the fact that there is so much waiting in all of our lives? I don't think it matters when you were born, where you were born, what kind of family you were born into. Waiting is just a universal experience of humankind here in our exile from the Garden of Eden. It's very interesting, isn't it? Take a second, just think in your own life of all of the things that you are currently waiting for. Some of them are very small, inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, like maybe you're waiting for a letter in the mail. Well, nobody gets letters in the mail. Maybe you're waiting for an email that you know is coming, that you're anticipating good things. Maybe you're waiting for your Amazon package to be delivered. Maybe you're waiting for bigger things than that, like big hopes and dreams that you have that just seem to be taking forever to come to fruition. And you begin to wonder, are they ever going to come to fruition? It's just a big part of our life. And I've been thinking about it so much lately that that's what my new blog post is about. And I invite you to come join me there and read my thoughts on what can we do during waiting. It's just a very brief little thought to carry you through this weekend. What can we do in these times of waiting? I've got 2 ideas. But I thought it would be good for me and maybe hopefully for you to take a minute to really think about it in a longer form than just a few paragraphs. This is something that I've thought about my whole adulthood. In fact, I'm going to do a little commercial here. In this devotional book that I wrote, I've got a whole chapter on waiting, and hopefully this can spur some thoughts for you on what to do when we wait. How can we make the most of our waiting, which I think the longer I live, the more I understand. I think that's God's intention as we wait, is to develop Christ-like character in us. The longer I live, the more I think this is what this whole part of being alive here on earth, because we're going to live forever in heaven, but on the on earth part, this is what it's about: believing God, trusting him, even when literally the whole world is trying to make you not believe God and not trust him and doubt and think, oh, that's not real, it's too good to be true, Jesus was a good man, blah, 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 all the things the world tells you. But in spite of all of the things around us, what the news says, what we even see with our own eyes, what circumstances say, in spite of all of that, God wants us to believe him, to trust him, to turn to him, to put our lives in his hands. And so waiting is a big part of that, is a big part of developing that kind of grit and tenacity and hope and trust and deep belief. We can use seasons of waiting to become closer to God, more like Jesus, or we can choose not to let that happen and just become bitter, frustrated people, right? And we see that all around us. We see it in our own lives. Some seasons I am way better at waiting patiently than others. How about you? So anyway, here is a chapter. There is a chapter for you in this devotional, which you can order on my blog also. I sort of weave this theme into my fiction as well. So here's a commercial for that. My new book is out, and it actually had a really fantastic first weekend where it became the #1 new release in teen and young adult mystery, Christian mystery. And that was very exciting for me. So thank you to all of you who have already bought it. And if you haven't, please do. Go to Amazon. I'm not doing an Amazon commercial today purposefully, but I've already said it twice. So Go there though, and you can buy the Kindle version for so cheap, less than $6. A fun weekend at the beach is what this is. And you can also buy this one. I can't explain to you why this one is $1 more on Kindle. I don't know, but it is. So you can buy both of these and have a fantastic couple of days, few days, reading some fun mysteries in which this theme of waiting is woven. It's so deep in me, trying to understand, trying to make the most of waiting. So, as you might have suspected, I have a stack of books beyond my own books here to help you think with me about the idea of waiting. So, one of the first books that I ever loved that I realized later was exploring this theme is this one, Laura Ingalls and The Long Winter. Do you remember this one? Have you read all of her books? They are so fantastic. She was very gifted at chronicling her young life, which just so happens to be such a fascinating period in American history, post-Civil War, open expansion as the young nation was moving west. Her family did it like in real time, and she so painstakingly chronicled her young life. This one, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, she was a teenager, like 13, 14 in this story. I don't even know, it's book 4 or 5 in her series. You are probably most familiar with Little House on the Prairie, which, was a TV show and all kinds of things, but the whole series is incredible. And this one, as her wandering kind of gypsy father kept moving west, they land in the Dakota Territories in, I think, the year 1880. And it just so happens that year they claimed their homestead land, built a little farm, settle in for what they think is going to be, just a normal winter. But look at the title, The Long Winter, because it's historical fact that this was one of the worst blizzards, horrible winter of all time for that region of the earth, the long winter. So these poor people it was like a 7-month long series of blizzards that just kept slamming that area. And all of the people that had, recently settled there, so many, it was terrible. They were cut off from all supply chains. They hadn't had time to really reap the big harvest. They were just stranded and basically almost died. Like it's a pretty intense story of surviving a long winter from the perspective of a 14-year-old. And it was really good. I remember reading it as a young kid, just being gripped by the fact, oh my, people go through such hard things. I think we should read books like this, don't you? I love a happy ending, probably more than most people. And this one, they live, that's the happy ending. But I think learning through other people's stories that God put within us something, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. You can't squash it. Human beings are very resilient with God's help. And reading a story like this, my young heart was stirred to, people can do hard things. People can go through very hard seasons and still have a lovely life in spite of them. This retelling is so sweet because, of course, she's much older as she's telling the story. So looking back upon her own experience with adult eyes, but their family was so sweet, and lovely life was still happening, even in the middle of a horrible season where everybody was basically trying not to die of starvation. So this book deeply impacted my thinking on the idea of waiting. It taught me, hey, we can do hard things. That's a good thing to learn. I think we should revisit these lessons, right? I should. Maybe I'll reread this weekend. Okay, Oh, you know what? I'm going to mention these two ladies next. I mentioned them in my blog post. Which did I tell you about it? I can't remember now if I've already mentioned it, but look on my blog, marygotro.com. This month's post is about waiting. And I mentioned these two ladies by name. Corrie ten Boom. I love her. I love everything about her. I can't find the hiding place. I was going to show you that, but I've mislaid it. It's somewhere in my books somewhere. But this one, he sets the captive free. Corrie ten Boom knew a thing or two about waiting. She waited her whole life and had dreams and hopes, for a husband, for a family that she never saw. She never saw them come true. They were deep dreams in her heart, and life got in the way of those dreams. She was my age. I think she was exactly the age I am now, 54, or close to it, when all of the events in the hiding place happened. I can't even imagine. So she had faithfully served her family. She had a real heartbreak as a younger woman. The man of her dreams chose someone else. And she just faithfully served God and her family. And then World War II just overwhelmed them. It rolled in and life changed dramatically. And she ended up, if you have never read her story, please do. It's so fascinating. At my age, she ended up, she was pretty awesome, way more awesome than I think most people realize. And she sort of was a big part of this underground resistance to the Nazi regime. And they were hiding Jews, like they were trying to keep their neighbors safe from this horrible, horrible machine that was just devouring people. And of course, somebody betrayed her. She got caught, and all of her family was taken to jail, to prison. I don't know the right word to say. And many of them were then transferred to actual concentration camps. And she saw like the most evil side of humanity, more than any of us will ever see, thank God. But she faithfully chronicled her experience of waiting, trusting God, like learning to trust God in the middle of literal hell on earth. We can learn some things from people that have endured, have waited, and put their faith, put their hope in God, put their trust in God. We need to read these stories again so that we won't get discouraged as we wait. So anything by Corrie ten Boom, incredible. Elizabeth Elliot, another person that I love so much. This one's a very famous book called Passion and Purity, Learning to Bring Your Love Life Under Christ's Control. And she wrote this from experience. I love her so much. She's very matter of fact. I love everything she says. And she, at certain times in my life, has been like pretty much my personal counselor, even though she's already in heaven. But her books, and there's a podcast now of like all of her old, I don't think she would have called them sermons, but talks that she gave all around the world, just encouraging people from what she learned through her own life experience, waiting. So she fell madly in love, deeply in love with a guy in college who just happened to be a super Christian, gonna go be a missionary and go deep into the jungle. And that was what he knew God had called him to do. Well, he didn't have time for marriage when she fell deeply in love with him, but she waited and waited and waited. And it was something wild, like 7-8 years, I don't know, before they actually got married. And then she joined him in the jungle mission. And, 18 months, something like that later, he was very senselessly murdered by a tribe who mistakenly thought he was trying to kill them. It was just a great mistake. And he and 4 other men were murdered by this tribe that thought they were trying to kill him, which of course they weren't trying to kill him. And then, Elizabeth had waited all that time to finally marry him. And they had a 9-month-old, 10-month-old baby, and he was just killed. And so that, among many other things that she learned in her life about waiting and trusting in the face of horrible circumstances, we can learn a thing or two from people that have gone before us about waiting and what God might be trying to teach us and develop in us. Something I ponder for a moment in my blog post is, I don't think there would be so much waiting in life here, in this part of life, in our exile from the garden, if God didn't see much that can be good for us in it. Like, he's not cruel. We know that. We know he's not cruel. He's not capricious, like, haha, let me put this dream in your heart and dangle it in front of you and then never let you have it. That's not God's character. So we've got to trust him that he's developing things in our hearts, in our lives, that are way more important than we understand them to be. We've got to trust God. So all these books I'm telling you about today are things that help you and me learn how to wait properly. Okay, here's some timely ones. And these are not Christian. Well, actually, one of them is. One of them isn't. But let me tell you about this one, The Odyssey. Have you read this? This is my high school copy, and it is hilariously old. And do you remember reading this? Did you read it in high school? I read it in high school and then in another college class. So I read it twice through. And now there's a movie about it, evidently, which I haven't seen. Have you seen it? I wonder if it's good. Well, this story is a classic, like really a classic. Some people call this one of the first novels of Western civilization. And, you know, the Odyssey, it's basically named after the hero, who's Odysseus. And he's the king of Ithaca, and he goes off to fight in the Trojan Wars, which, what is that, like 10 years of his life he's fighting. And then it takes him another 10 years to get back from fighting in the war. And it's the world's longest story, but it's very good. And it's full of the, you know, treachery of human beings. It's full of, like, wow, unseen realm kind of stuff of all the gods and goddesses conspiring against him. It's very good. Again, what can we learn from other stories about waiting? We can learn a lot, even in a not specifically Christian story. Okay, let me tell you about another one that I think is timely. And I'm not a political commentator, but I am a reader, and I'm a Christian. And so I'm going to tell you about this one that many of you may not have read, because look at the fatness of this book. But it is vitally important that we read it. It's called The Gulag Archipelago, and it's by, okay, let me get it right, Alexander, I have to think about it before I say it, Solzhenitsyn. And he was writing from the perspective of someone who experienced basically the Soviet Union, Soviet Russia. He witnessed firsthand what it was actually like after the revolution in Russia, and was that 1917, 18? I can't remember. Up until 1956, I think, is when the timeline is. And very few people in the West realized what was happening. It was all painted. You know, there's nothing new under the sun, everyone. It was painted with a beautiful brush of, you know, power to the people. We don't need God. We can forge our own path. And this man experienced what it was actually like. And his writing, which that's some experience, everyone, about waiting in the most hellish of circumstances. You should read this at some point in your life, especially if you're young. Well, no age discrimination here, but I think young people, you need to understand reality. And this man experienced the reality of that ideology, the without God ideology, and it's terrifying. And it really happened. And the stir that this book caused when it was actually successfully brought here to the United States, because of course he suffered greatly for writing what he saw, and it finally came out here, and it was, you know, heads burst because nobody had any idea, or I'm sure some people had an idea, but very few people, just you and me kind of people, regular people, had any idea what was actually happening over there. So I'm just seeing that this is taking a long time. Waiting. What can we learn about other people's experiences with waiting? And of course, the Bible, I don't know where I put my Bible, it's near, is filled with stories of waiting. There's something God wants to teach us through waiting. So what are you waiting for? It's all kinds of things, isn't it? Some of us are waiting for, you know, dreams and hopes that we have in our hearts to become a reality. Some of us are waiting for things only God can give. But in the meantime, we can learn. I was about to say we can learn from experience of people in the Bible, which the whole Old Testament is about waiting for the promised Messiah, right? From the very first few chapters, the promise of a Savior is given, and that whole part of the Bible is waiting, like deep longing for things to be made right. And we are so blessed to live on this side of the cross, and we can look back at that first season of the long wait for the Messiah and realize he really did come. Jesus really came. He really defeated death. He really took our sin and shame. We know for a fact he came the first time. It changed everything. Like, try as anybody might to erase the fact that time hinges on Jesus's coming. We have before him and we have after him. No matter what you call it, that's what it is. He really did come. And so we can realize from that long wait that this long wait of waiting for him to return and for the day of the Lord to come, when he sets everything right, when evil is removed from our experience, when justice is served in the most beautiful way, the perfect blend of justice and mercy as only God can give. When we wait for that, we can look back on all that we know has already happened. We can read all of these books about people that waited with excellence, and we can be inspired to wait, not in despair, but with hope and expectation. So all of this to say today, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are the things that your heart is just crying out, God, help? I've got some things in my heart, haven't you? We can wait. We can wait, and we can grow. We can learn. We can become more like Christ every day as we wait. Think how patiently God waits. He is the most patient of all, and he is the one that is waiting the longest. Imagine from his perspective all these billions of people that you have created, purposefully, beautifully, painstakingly created with hopes and dreams that you want. Imagine, we can't imagine being God, but just try for a second. You've given life to billions of people, and basically what do we do all day as we sit around and fuss inside like, God, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And really, he's so patient for us to see that he's that wonderful Father just waiting, like watching and waiting for us to come to our senses and turn and run to him for everything. So as you wait, let God help you. Let God grow your heart, your capacity for compassion, for mercy, for forgiveness. Let him make you a whole lot more like himself as you wait. Thank you so much for listening. I pray that this encourages you in some way, and I'll see you next time.